Hi everyone, it's Candice from Karuna Wellness with my weekly video. Today I'm going to share some insights that were channeled or downloaded to me yesterday. I was filling a pot with water, and at the same time I was drinking a glass of water because I'm a mom of two young boys and I multitask. And I got thinking about how the water comes from the ground and the earth, and the water cycle has been coming up for me. I've been talking to the kids about the water cycle just because. And this idea popped into my head, and it's something that I sort of already knew, but it just pushed my consciousness and my understanding of my reality a little bit further. So I'll share it with you. So follow my thought train. Consciousness is expressing itself through physical form, and that's not the message I got, but just to set up the foundation for what I'm going to share. So consciousness is expressing itself through physical form, and physical form collapses or comes into being through a medium that some people call the vacuum, the ether, plasma, or nothing. And we perceive it as such because we are experiencing physical reality. So it's really hard to observe something objectively when you're in the midst of experiencing it. So as a person in physical form, you can't necessarily fully understand and observe the plasma or the ether in its full capacity because you're experiencing it, right? Consciousness is expressing itself through that medium, using the ether or the plasma as a sculpting clay to express the physical reality, which we are. So we are coming out of that. We're part of that creation. We are also creating. We are vessels that come out of the ether that can create, because consciousness is expressing itself through us. So this is nothing new. This you can find more in the quantum realms as to how reality is kind of oscillating in and out of existence constantly. And I'm not going to get into that. Okay. So that's just like a non-negotiable for this conversation. So take what resonates and leave the rest. All right. I had to write this down because I wanted to make sure I did this properly. So consciousness uses ether as a medium. Yes. So the physical equivalent of the ether, so the physical expression of this ether is water. Okay, so that was like the epiphany that I had. So consciousness is expressing itself through physical form. And with that, the physical expression of the ether, or consciousness's understanding of the ether in physical form, a representation or metaphor for that is water. So water is where the ether expresses itself. And water is where all physical potential lies within the ether. And all of life and consciousness, etc., is represented through water. Water is the physical expression of that ether. I think that's really profound and interesting to kind of dive into. So water is required for life, just as the ether is required for physical existence to collapse in and to create us. Okay, keep following me. Water holds memory. And with water holding memory, that really feeds into things that I do, we all do every day, because we are composed of water. All living things are made from water, and they need water to exist and be alive. And if water holds memory, there's so many layers and levels to why that's important to understand. Water is what sculpts physical existence. It holds the memory of eons ago. They're carried within our cells and our bodies, right? Right back to the stardust and all that stuff. But ancestral, generational things, right? That water being passed down, energy work, vibes you pick up. Water is the medium with which all these different energies, vibes, information, intentions flows through. So water is the medium that can hold that, and these other unseen forces that are part of our existence that are still expressions of consciousness, like knowings and vibes, intentions, emotions, etc., the water acts as a medium to oscillate or reverberate those things and continue to carry those through physicality, right? So if I'm doing Reiki with somebody and I'm letting, the life force energy, using myself as a channel, it's coming through the water and other things in my body too, not to negate everything else, but through the water, because I'm mostly water, to the other person. Okay. There's water droplets in the air, even if I'm not touching the person. And it's going to affect them on the cellular level because all of their cells are made out of water. So the water is the conduit or the channel through which these other energies, we'll call them, or expressions of consciousness, can exist physically. Okay, it's like the nervous system or the network. Okay, the geometry, the structure that holds it together and represents that ether, which is really, I think this is just fascinating. Water, it dilutes, it dissolves, right? It can take in all the messages, and then it can also relay them. It can carve, it can shape things. We can go really macro with it. Think about glaciation and how it carves landscapes. It also carves and shapes us as a physical being and our existence, our cells, like the physical landscape within our bodies and our systems. What else did I want to say? Another thing I want to mention is you can Google or YouTube monks blessing water or putting hatred into things, and it affects the molecular structure of the water because the water holds memory and it's a conduit for consciousness to travel through, right? So that is proof that when we pick up a vibe from somebody or we're doing energy work with somebody, it is affecting the molecular structure of both people. There is a reciprocation. There's a connection happening physically. And that is a reflection of what's happening in consciousness. So consciousness needs or wants to express itself physically, and water is helping to amplify that or allow that to continue to happen. So water, in a sense, is this clay, this sculpting material or medium for consciousness to travel through in ways that we can't necessarily see, but it still gives it that physical component. And water is also a part of the weather, the climate of the earth, or Mother Gaia. And sometimes the weather can be moody. We say it's a gloomy day or a happy day, that kind of thing. And with that, our consciousness affects the weather. And the weather also can affect our consciousness, right? You know how you feel on a sunny day versus a cloudy day. And some people actually like cloudy days and rainy days, and some people don't. I love a nice rainy day. I think it's really cleansing and I get excited. But after a few days, I feel my mood kind of dip, right? And everyone will experience that in their own way. And this is empowering. This is meant to empower you because it gives you a deeper or fuller understanding of how to understand. I know I said understand a few times. How to understand your reality, how to understand the effect you have on your reality, and how maybe you are allowing the reality around you to shape you when really the creative force and the clay that sculpts the very structure and geometry and the lattice work of this reality is flowing within you. As consciousness expresses itself through your physical body, you can use, just by tuning into that energy, the thought and the intent of the water that comprises all that you are, and the water of the droplets in the air, because it's all around you. Otherwise, we'd all be shriveled up raisins, drying up and under the sun. You can use that to do many things, like protecting yourself, sending protective energy out into the water molecules with the intent of your consciousness, and allowing it to saturate every cell of your body and all of the atoms, electrons, whatever, the water molecules all around you as far as you'd like. You can send peace and joy out. You can affect the weather in a way that, is in highest alignment for people. So there maybe aren't so many terrible natural disasters happening, right? So sometimes there's the climate in the earth And it is let me start over. The consciousness of the collective can express itself through weather patterns. And some of these weather patterns can be amplified by people that, there's twofold, can amplify by people that are really in tune with this concept that I've just shared with you, because we are the technology. And two, there are people that have access to external technology, so technology that is not organic, because we are organic technology, that have access to that are affecting the weather patterns. There's no doubt about it. It's been happening for a long time. And at times, those intentions may not always be pure, or maybe they're a little misguided. And if there is a pocket of the collective somewhere that has an affinity towards more of the lower densities or vibrations, it can draw in the likelihood of that technology being used, you can say it against that collective, those people, that consciousness, because it's almost like when you see a wheelbarrow and it makes a rut, it naturally wants to funnel down into that. And there's two ways to look at that. You can look at that with the fear template and go, oh my gosh, this is terrible. How can people do this? This isn't right. I want to stand up for this, and get really angry. And I think that's a very natural response. I think that is sacred. And I think that's not somewhere to live, but it's definitely something to acknowledge and feel if that comes up for you. Or two, understand there's a way to use that as a stepping stone to help more people wake up. When people are in a really low or dense vibration, getting into an even more intense version of that can actually cause a deeper awakening, because they go, holy crap, what have I been doing? How did, this needs to stop. A lot of people experience that with the climate change, but with COVID, right? All of a sudden people are wanting to spend more time with their families, career changes, they're moving geographically. So we're noticing more with the weather lately, more natural disasters happening or being documented. Mother Earth there's more earthquakes, and the sun is more active. There's all these things happening, and it's all happening to deepen and further our awakening, providing us more opportunity for that to happen. So this isn't to create or cause any fear. It is to inform you from a place of just knowing that I am not a meteorologist. I am not a scientist. I am not an expert. And this is in no way, shape, or form a fact. Anything I'm sharing, it's just for fun. It's just what comes to me as an intuitive, and I feel compelled to share it with you. And you can use this however you see fit. And again, take what resonates and leave the rest. If it doesn't resonate with you, I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. I don't have any way to prove anything that I'm saying to you. It's just what comes through, and it's my knowing. And so I think I'd like to share that. So I'd like to let you know that, because you're a sovereign being, and anything that I say that doesn't resonate, leave it, because it's not meant for you. And I want you to use your discernment, and I want you to do your own research. And that research may look more scientific, or you may not be someone who wants to look at that stuff and want to go with what feels in your heart. And some of you want to do a blend of both. And whatever way you need to access information to find your inner truth, all the power to you. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to talk about today. Yeah, and they're saying that we can overpower those that have ill intent with the weather altering technology, just by us understanding and fully grasping that we literally, it's like set it and forget it. Just be yourself. They say work on yourself, your inner light, it's all within, and all that corny stuff, it's at the end of every movie, or most movies. It's actually embodying that and knowing and focusing on you. It reverberates out naturally, and you're setting the example for other people so that they too know that they can access that. And that's part of my soul mission, is to walk the talk and to create accessibility for you to understand how we are programmed and how our reality is constructed in a way that you can tune into and go, oh, I kind of see what she's saying, or it's a little bit of a stretch, but I get the gist or the vibe of what she's saying. And as long as you're getting the gist of it, perfect. Because after that, it's up to you to integrate that and interpret it how you need to. Because how I see things, you might see it a bit differently. And if you need to see it differently, then that's great, because you need to tune into the way that you perceive the world, or else, if you're interpreting it through my lens, it gets really distorted and it's incoherent and it's not going to make any sense, and you can't use the information and the whole thing's for nothing. So consciousness is expressed in the weather and thus the climate. So if you're wondering how to tune into the collective, sometimes you can just kind of look at overall weather patterns and what's going on, right? Like if I just kind of tune into it, I can sense that like the earth is shifting and kind of shaking things off. There's a lot of density kind of coming out. So I think there's like some more earthquakes happening, volcanic activity, more solar activity is helping to kind of cleanse and amplify things in ways that get higher consciousness, into higher consciousness. And there's natural disasters occurring because of some of these little, it's like almost like there's pockets of consciousness throughout the world that needs expressed and not repressed, and it needs to come up and out somewhere. So even though there's some external technology being used, and I personally don't think it's for the good of humanity, we can definitely use that as a stepping stone to help us all awaken to be like, what the heck is going on? And set better intentions from our heart space, and allowing that to reverberate through every friggin' water molecule that's within us, because that will reverberate and affect the rest of the world. And the more of us that are doing that, we're all like antennas, we're amplifiers, because water is very conductive, and we all amplify one another. So you notice when you're with people that lift you up, how you feel, and you notice when you're with people that drain you, how you feel. So which person are you going to be? Okay, and how are you going to use these capabilities? So that's my message today. So much love.